You step into the opening, and the sound of the beach changes immediately. Not gone, just softened, as if the ocean has been wrapped in cloth. The air inside is cooler against your cheeks. It settles on your skin like a clean layer. Your shoulders instinctively lower, not from fear, but from the simple act of entering a lower space. You bow your head. You place one hand on the stone to steady yourself. The rock feels smooth where many hands have touched it over time. Cool, slightly damp, patient. Behind you, the guide lights the lantern. A small flame, a warm circle of light. Not enough to flood the cave, just enough to give edges and distance. You take a few steps forward. Sand gives way to firmer ground. Small pebbles crunch softly underfoot, then stop crunching as the floor becomes packed earth. Your breathing sounds louder in the enclosed space, so you slow it down. You let it become quiet again. The passage slopes gently at first, a gradual descent, the kind that makes you aware of your ankles and knees. The guide moves with ease, keeping the lantern low so the light falls on the ground in front of you. They do not talk much. When they do, it is practical. Watch the lip. Hand here. Short words that keep you steady. The temperature drops another degree as you move deeper. Not cold, just cool enough that you can feel the difference between outside warmth and inside shade. The air grows more still. Less breeze. More held space. You come to a point where the passage narrows. A natural pinch in the rock. You turn your shoulders slightly. Your fingertips find a shallow groove in the wall. An old handhold formed by use. You move through without scraping. Slow and careful. On the far side, the tunnel opens again into a rounded corridor. The floor is uneven now. Not jagged, but textured with small rises and dips like a dried riverbed. Your steps shorten. Your weight becomes deliberate. The guide stops and offers the chalk again, though you already hold it. They point to the wall where the rock changes color, light stone shifting to darker stone. A simple landmark. They make a small mark there. A short line, neat and quiet. Then they hand the chalk to you. You add your own mark beside theirs. A small curve. Nothing fancy. Just something that will look familiar when you return. Farther in, the sound changes again. Faint drip. Slow. Regular. Not a leak in crisis. Just water doing what water does. The lantern light catches dampness on the stone. Tiny beads that glitter and then fade as the light moves on. You notice how the cave breathes. Not like a living creature. Like a space that knows its own temperature and keeps it steady. You continue downward along a clearer path. Someone at some point has moved loose stones aside. Not a constructed stair. Just a practical passage made more walkable. A place that welcomes careful feet. The guide ties a thin cord around a rock spur and lets it trail behind for a few yards. A soft line to follow back if the lantern light feels different later. The cord rests against the ground without tension, as if it, too, is patient. As you pass, you brush your fingertips along the wall again. You feel subtle ridges, smooth pockets. The rock is not sharp. It is worn, tight-carved, shaped by slow water and slower time. Then you notice something that is not just geology, not a threat, not a sound that spikes your heart, just a change in the feeling of being here. It is the sense that your carefulness matters, that the place responds not with alarm, but with quiet recognition, as if the cave holds a memory of every footstep that came too fast and every one that came gently. And as you move with restraint, the air seems to settle more comfortably around you. The guide glances back once, as if checking the same thing. Their expression stays neutral, but their pace becomes even steadier, a fraction slower. The lantern flame does not flicker, yet the light looks warmer against the stone, as if the cave prefers calm movement. You reach a wider chamber where the ceiling rises enough that you can stand fully upright. The air here is cooler and cleaner, faintly mineral, like wet stone without mud. The drip sound is clearer, coming from somewhere above. Each drop lands with a small, soft tap. Along one wall, you see a shallow shelf in the rock. On it sits a small bundle wrapped in cloth, spare lantern oil, perhaps. A folded strip of fabric. A flat stone that looks like a resting place for tools. A functional station, used quietly and maintained. The guide sets the lantern down for a moment and takes a slow drink of water. They offer the skin to you. The water tastes fresh, cool, almost sweet compared to the air outside. When you hand it back, the guide nods once. Then they lift the lantern again and move toward a darker opening at the far end of the chamber. This one is not a gentle slope. This one is a tighter descent, a passage that drops in a more deliberate way. You step closer and see the change. The floor tilts down sharply, a natural ramp with smoother stone. Beside it, a narrow ledge runs along the wall, just wide enough for careful feet. A place where you will need balance. A place where you will need time. The guide points to the ledge, then to the cord, then back to you as if saying, "Mark this in your mind." They take the chalk and draw one more small symbol at shoulder height. A simple circle, a reminder of the threshold. You breathe in, cool air, lantern warmth, stone scent, the distant hush of the ocean now only a memory. Ahead, the difficult area is visible, not attempted yet, just waiting, a careful place that asks for patience before it allows passage. You arrive where the path runs out of certainty, not because it becomes dangerous, because it becomes quiet enough that the next step feels like a choice. The beach is narrow here, tucked between warm rock and patient water. The sand holds a soft heat, as if the day stored it for you. When you shift your weight, the grains move like silk, and in the movement, tiny flecks catch the light, crystal sparkles that appear, then vanish, then appear again. The air smells of salt and something sweet. Not perfume, not sharp, just a gentle fruit scent that drifts in and out with the breeze. Exotic trees lean toward the shore as if they have been listening to the tide for years. Their leaves are broad and glossy, layered in shades of deep green. Here and there, blossoms hang like small lanterns, bioluminescent, faint even in daylight, as if saving their glow for dusk. When you step beneath them, the shade feels cool and organized. The branches do not scratch. They simply make space. A few fruits hang low enough to reach without stretching. Round, pale, slightly translucent. When the wind turns them, their skins flash softly. If you bring your hand close, the scent lifts, warm and sweet, like honeyed citrus. You do not need to take any. You only notice. The shoreline is scattered with driftwood, not in piles, in placements, pieces shaped like curved ribs and smooth staffs. A few lengths of wood are marked with natural grooves that resemble old symbols. Runes, almost, though you do not try to read them. They are not messages. They are patterns that time makes when it is left alone. The ocean keeps its own steady rhythm. Small waves arrive. They lift. They settle, and the sound they leave behind is thin and calming, like a slow brush across canvas. Tide pools sit in the rock pockets near the waterline. You move toward them without hurrying. The stone is warm under your bare soles where sand has been brushed away. The pools hold still water that reflects the sky, and inside that stillness, jewel-colored fish drift and turn, shimmering greens and blues and quiet golds. They do not scatter when you lean closer. They simply adjust their spacing, as if they have learned the difference between attention and threat. A lived-in place shows itself in small, practical signs. A low bench of weathered wood tucked against a rock. A coil of rope hung on a peg driven into a natural crack. A shallow bowl carved from stone, holding smooth pebbles as if someone gathered them slowly, one by one. There is even a small shelter of woven palm fronds, more shade than structure, placed where the afternoon sun would otherwise press too hard. You hear footsteps before you see anyone. Not hurried, not heavy, just steady, sand giving way with each step. A guide figure comes into view along the edge of the trees. They carry a small pack, a water skin, a piece of chalk tucked behind one ear like an afterthought. Their clothing is simple and worn in the way clothing looks when it has been used for real work and then cared for. They do not approach with a big greeting. They only nod, the way someone does when they see you have already found the quiet. Their voice, when it comes, is low and plain. Water's warm today. A pause. Rock stays cool. That is all. Not a story. Not an invitation dressed up in mystery. Just two facts that belong to this place. You walk together along the line where sand meets stone. The guide does not lead with urgency. They match your pace. When you slow to watch the tide pools, they slow too. When you stop beneath the trees to feel the air change, they wait without impatience. As the sun lowers, the blossoms begin to show themselves more clearly. Not bright, not dramatic. A faint glow gathers at the edges of petals, like moonlight caught in thin fabric. The beach looks the same, and also not the same. The guide gestures toward a section of rock farther down the shore. At first, it looks like any other weathered formation. A rounded face of stone, darkened by salt, scored by time. But when you come closer, you see the seam, a subtle break in the rock surface, a shadow that holds its shape even when the angle of light changes. An opening, not wide, not obvious, set just above the reach of the highest small waves. The air near it is different, cooler, steadier, less salt, more stone. Near the entrance, a few more of those rune-shaped driftwood pieces rest against the wall like quiet markers. On the sand beneath, small stones have been arranged in a simple line, guiding the eye without demanding attention. A practical invitation, not a sign, not a warning, just a way of saying, this is where the world folds inward. You do not hear anything from inside. No roar, no echoing danger. Only a deep, gentle hush, as if the rock is holding its breath in a calm, familiar way. The guide sets their pack down and takes out a small lantern. Not blazing, a soft light. They test the wick, then close it again. They do not turn it on yet. They look at you, not expectant, not dramatic, just present. There's a hollow, they say, old tide cut. A pause, as if checking that simple words are enough. It goes back. You look into the shadow. The opening is big enough to enter without squeezing, but small enough that you will need to bow your head. You can already feel the cool air on your face when you lean closer. It carries a faint mineral scent, clean and damp, like stones after rain. You think about the tide, about how water finds its way into everything given enough time, about how rock can hold a secret without trying. The guide offers the chalk, not as a symbol, as a tool, a way to return. Your hand closes around it. Lightweight, dry texture, a simple promise you can make to yourself. You will not rush. You will mark your way. You will come back. You take one more breath of the sweet coastal air. Salt, fruit, warm sand, faint glow beginning in the trees. Then, with no urgency at all, you decide to go below. You stand at the edge of the narrow ledge and let your body understand it before you move. You do not test it with bravado. You do not step quickly and hope for the best. You simply look. The ledge runs along the wall like a quiet ribbon of stone. It is not perfectly flat. It rises and dips in small waves. In places, it narrows and the wall leans inward. In other places, it widens just enough for a full foot. Below it, the ramp drops into darker space. Not endless, just out of the lantern's reach. You can hear the drip sound down there, a little louder, as if water has collected somewhere deeper. The guide sets the lantern on a stable rock at the beginning of the ledge, so the light falls sideways and reveals texture. Shadows show the shallow pits where feet have stood, smooth patches where hands have steadied. This is a path that has been taken before. Not often, but enough. The guide speaks softly with no drama. One at a time. A pause. Hand stays on stone. You nod, and the nod feels natural, like agreeing to a simple rule you already wanted. You take the lantern for the first section, carrying it low. The light moves with you and makes the wall seem closer, more detailed. You place your first foot carefully. Weight transfers. The stone holds. You place your second foot. You pause. You let your muscles settle. You continue. Your fingertips slide along the wall. Cool stone. A thin layer of moisture. Not slick. Just alive with dampness. Your hand learns the wall's shape. A shallow ridge here. Pocket there. A small notch that fits your thumb. When the ledge narrows, you angle your shoulders toward the wall. You shorten your steps. You keep the lantern steady so it does not throw shifting shadows that could confuse your sense of distance. Your breathing stays slow, even, as if you are matching the drip, as if you are matching time. You reach a point where the ledge opens into a small platform. Not a room, just a pause. A place where you can stand more comfortably and look ahead. The guide steps onto the ledge behind you, following with the same calm pace. They move like someone who knows that steady is faster than hurried, in the long run. From the platform, you can see the next section. The wall curves inward. The ledge narrows again. And there is a gap, small but not nothing. A place where the stone has broken away, leaving a reach you will have to make. Not a leap, not a dramatic jump, just a careful transfer of weight across a missing span. The guide sets the lantern on the platform's edge and leans closer to study the gap. They take a thin rope from their pack and loop it around a rock spur on your side. They do not pull it tight. They only lay it across the gap and secure it lightly on the far side, giving you a handhold line. A quiet assist. Nothing heroic, just practical. You test the rope with your palm. It is coarse, dry, reliable. You look at the far side. The ledge continues. Beyond it, the rock opens into another chamber, faintly visible. And in that chamber, something catches the lantern light. A soft glitter in the stone, like tiny stars embedded in the wall. Not gemstones piled in a treasure heap, just a seam where crystal flecks gather. A place the cave has been holding for a long time. You do not feel pulled toward it. You do not feel rushed. You simply acknowledge it. The guide's voice is quiet, nearly a whisper. Easy. You step closer to the gap. You place your front foot at the edge. You keep your back foot grounded. You grip the rope with one hand, the wall with the other. You shift your weight forward in small increments, letting your body decide when it is balanced. Then you move, a careful step across, a controlled transfer, a moment where you are aware of your own steadiness. Your foot lands on the far ledge. The stone holds. You bring the second foot across. You pause. You let the tension drain out of your shoulders. The guide follows after you with the same steady method. When they arrive, they do not celebrate. They simply breathe, and the lantern light steadies. You continue along the ledge into the chamber. Here, the ceiling rises, and the walls shine faintly where minerals have formed thin, glassy skins. Water has traced paths down the stone over centuries. It has left behind delicate lines, as if someone drew them with a careful hand. In one section of wall, the crystal seam is closer. The flecks sparkle when the lantern passes. Not bright, just present, as if the stone is remembering light. On the ground below the seam, you find a shallow bowl carved from rock. It sits on a natural shelf, level and stable. Inside it, a few small pieces of crystal rest already collected. Not many, a modest handful, as if someone decided long ago that the place should not be stripped. Only acknowledged. You understand the task now. It is not to take everything. It is not to prove anything. It is to take a little carefully and leave the place whole. You kneel slowly, feeling the cool air around your knees. You choose one small piece from the bowl. Not the biggest, not the brightest, just one that fits easily in your palm. It is smooth and cool with a weight that feels honest. You hold it for a moment, then slip it into a small cloth pouch. You could take more. The bowl would allow it. The seam would allow it. But something about the chamber asks for restraint. Not in words, not in threats, just in the quiet sense of balance. You place your hand on the stone shelf beside the bowl. A moment of stillness. A soft respect shown by leaving the rest untouched. In the corner of your awareness, you feel that implied presence again. Not a creature. Not a figure stepping from the shadows. Just the feeling that the cave notices. That the rock, the water, the slow air all register your choice. And the feeling you receive back is not reward. It is acceptance. Calm allowance. The guide says nothing. They only watch with a neutral expression, as if this is the part that matters most. Not the crossing, but the taking less than you could. When you stand, you move carefully, as if you are still on the ledge. You return the lantern to your hand. You turn back the way you came. The gap is crossed again with the same steadiness. Hand on rope, hand on stone, weight shifting slowly. No hurry, no mistake. On the platform, you pause long enough to feel your heartbeat settle. To feel the cool air become familiar again. To feel the path behind you as something you can follow. The guide collects the rope, leaving no clutter behind. They take the chalk from your hand and add a small mark near the platform. Subtle, tidy. A reminder for future careful feet. You begin the climb back. Up the ledge. Up the gentle slope. Past the drip sound that stays patient. Past the marks you made. Past the cord you can follow back with your eyes and memory. There is no pursuit. No change in the air that feels like anger. Only the same quiet steadiness you felt on the way in. And beneath that, a simple sense that you were allowed. That you moved with respect. That you are leaving the place as you found it. Still whole, still patient, still quietly aware. The passage rises gradually, and the air warms by degrees you can barely measure. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just enough that you notice when your skin stops feeling cool. The drip sound fades behind you. The lantern light begins to compete with a different kind of light ahead. Faint, bluish, filtering in from the entrance. The ocean's hush returns as a soft memory first, then as a real sound, muted, wrapped, but present. You pass the chalk marks you made. They look simple. They look ordinary. And that simplicity feels right. A path marked for returning, not for conquering. When you reach the narrow pinch in the rock, you turn your shoulders and move through slowly. Your hand finds the same groove. Your palm rests on the same cool surface. You feel how the stone is unchanged. How it holds what it holds without needing you. The guide moves behind you, steady as before. Near the entrance, they close the lantern slightly, lowering the flame. Not because it is no longer needed, but because the outside light is gentle now. Evening has come. The shift is soft. You step out onto the beach, and warm air meets your face like a quiet cloth. Salt returns. Fruit scent returns. The breeze touches your hair and moves on. The trees along the shore are glowing faintly now. Bioluminescent blossoms brighten at the edges, like small embers that do not burn. Their light is not showy. It is calm. A dusk language the place speaks without effort. The sand beneath your feet feels warmer than you remember, as if it held the day carefully and is now sharing it back. When you walk, the crystal flecks catch the fading light and sparkle gently, not like fireworks, like tiny acknowledgments. The tide pools are darker now, reflecting the deepening sky. Inside them, Jewel-colored fish still drift and turn, their bodies flashing softly when they move. They do not startle. They keep their slow pattern. The guide sets their pack down near the woven shade shelter and pours water into a small cup. They offer it to you without ceremony. You drink. Cool water. Clean taste. A simple settling. The guide speaks in the same low, practical tone. Good pace. A pause. Place stays quiet. That is all. No explanation. No lesson. Just a recognition of how you moved. You sit for a moment on the weathered bench tucked against the rock. Your shoulders soften. Your hands rest open on your knees. The small pouch with the single crystal is a lightweight, barely there. A reminder, not a prize. The ocean continues its slow work. Waves arrive. They lift. They settle. And the sound they leave behind is thin and calming, like a steady brush across canvas. You watch the blossoms glow in the trees, faint lanterns among leaves. You breathe in the sweet scent of low-hanging fruit. You feel the warmth of sand under you. You notice driftwood shaped like old symbols resting where the tide placed it, as if time arranged it without effort. And when you stand again, the beach is narrow here, tucked between warm rock and patient water. The sand holds a soft heat, as if the day stored it for you. When you shift your weight, the grains move like silk, and in the movement, tiny flecks catch the light, crystal sparkles that appear, then vanish, then appear again.